back at it. We just finished endorsements, and we found out there were 4 of them. And now we're going to move on and go into holder in due course, which really sounds kind of confusing. But once you understand what a holder in due course is, it will make a lot more sense. First of all, let me give you an example, and then we'll go back and talk about it. This is a holder in due course. Marcia writes out a note to Alex for $1,000 in exchange for, I think it's some sort of Roman coins. Alex takes the note and transfers it or sells it to Alicia. Now, that's all good and well. Works perfect, except for Alex ends up giving defective goods to Marcia. So what you have to understand, so now what happens here? And this is a promise to pay in 30 days. So what happens? Who pays who what? Okay? You gotta kind of wonder here. Because Larson, which is Alicia, did not take the note for value. She is not a holder in due course. Thus Cambry, who's right here, can assert against Larson the defense of Jared's breach when Larson submits the note to Cambry for payment. In contrast, if Larson had taken the note for value, Cambry could not assert the defense and would be liable to pay the note. So since Jared did not ask for any type of consideration from Alicia, she is not a holder in due course. So when you come back and come to Marcia, since she got defective goods, there was no consideration or value that passed hands here, then Alicia cannot try to get the $1,000. So it's sort of a breach of contract with Alex in the middle. If there had been consideration here, and all of the requirements were met for a holder in due course, then Marcia would still have to pay Alicia. So let's find out what it takes to be a holder in due course. And right here, a holder accepts the instrument free of defenses and claims of the transferor. So that says if there's a lien against that, whatever, and they're not aware of it, and the transferor, the person transfers it to them, that doesn't come with the note or the instrument. So you have to have requirements met for a holder in due course. And first of all, you have to take the instrument for value. And that's something that Alicia didn't do. There are 5 ways for value to be established. You can perform a promise. You can acquire security interest. You can take in payments. You can give it as a payment or as an irrevocable commitment. The note or the instrument also has to be given in good faith and without notice. Now, without notice means that whoever they're giving that or transferring that instrument to is unaware of any defects or defaults. There's no knowledge of a defect, there's no written notice of a defect, and there's no reason for them to know of a defect. And finally, we come up with a shelter principle. If Alicia had holder in due course status, and she had transferred that to another human being, to another person, they would acquire her status. And that's called the shelter principle. So the holder in due course is meant to protect the person, the third party person, from any type of fraud, and gives them kind of a special standing. And that standing was pretty strong until about 1976, and we're going to discuss what happened in 1976, because as you could imagine, this could get fairly confusing in the commercial world. So let's kind of move on and kind of let that ferment a little bit. We're going to look at signature and warranty liabilities. Now, anytime that you negotiate or you transfer or you have a negotiable instrument, your signature, the minute you sign it, creates a liability. It's like a contractual liability. And there are two types of signature liabilities. One's the primary, the ones by the makers or the acceptors, and you'll remember those would be for CDs. The maker would be the bank, and the acceptor would be the bank. That's a primary. That's a very big contract. Secondary contracts are for secondary liabilities. Signature liabilities would be people such as drawers or endorsers. They also have a responsibility. If you're signing that, you're saying that it is a legitimate document or an instrument. There are transfer warranties, and these are implied now. So if I am transferring an instrument to somebody, I'm saying I'm entitled to transfer it, that all the signatures on it are authentic, that the instrument hasn't been altered, and there are no defaults or bankruptcies to it. So that's if I just transfer it to somebody or sign it to somebody. The presentment warranties, basically the same thing. They're saying, if I present this to the bank, I'm saying I'm entitled to present it. The instrument that I'm presenting hasn't been altered. Just think about a check. Think about a stolen check. And there's no knowledge that it's unauthorized. So those are kind of implied warranties for negotiable items or negotiable instruments. And we do those every day with our checks and our transfers. We're implying that we have that right. If you take all of this in above here, then there are defenses, limitations, and discharges against negotiable instruments. Two types. One is the universal or real, and most of these are valid defenses for the HDC or the holder in due course. And personal one is limited, and usually the HDC is kind of protected in this area. So your defenses can be on the universal side for forgery, fraud, and alteration, bankruptcy, minority, if somebody who is not considered an adult yet, you remember that minority rule, that can be a defense for not honoring a negotiable instrument. And that's only if it agrees with the state law. And of course, then there's the illegality. It can't be illegal. You have to have the mental capacity, and it can't be the instrument couldn't be drawn up under duress. Does that sound familiar? Kind of sounds like a contract law, doesn't it? On the personal, which is sort of limited, so these are limitations. A breach of contract or warranty is defensible. Lack of consideration, if there's no value that changes hands for the negotiable instrument. If there's fraud, illegality and mental incapacity, again, and ordinary duress or undue influence. So you have, two sets of two types of defenses, and there are limitations with each of them. And finally, we come down, there are federal limitations, and this is what I was talking about with the holder in due course. In 1976, the FTC issued a ruling, I think it was 344 or 433, that abolished the HDC doctrine for consumer credit transactions, which meant that put a stop on a lot of the transfers and the special rights that went with a holder in due course, because it was becoming totally unfair. It became a very unfair environment for the consumers. Since that time, this holder in due course has not become as important as it used to be. And the negotiable instrument can also be discharged or forgiven, I guess would be a good word for it, by payment or cancellation by the holder, or if it can be materially altered by the holder. They can tear it up, they can say canceled. If the holder of it says this is no longer valid, then that could be a discharge. That fairly well covers negotiable instruments in Chapter 13. A lot to take in. Again, it's a lot like contract, warrant and liability. We talked about that. So now we're taking everything we've learned in previous chapters, and we're kind of weaving business law now. So there's a question here at the end, and we will see you on Wednesday. Have a good day, folks. Thank you.